Hi, everyone. This is Julie Albaugh from Wedding Market News, and we have a special Zoom edition with Wedding Market friends and Colin Cowie. And I will be your host this next hour for our fun networking event. And we want this all to be a fun time for wedding professionals to get together and talk and have a great time. So I first want to introduce our first guest, which is Colin Cowie. And if you have not heard of Colin Cowie before, he has done so many different parties and events around the world, including clients like Oprah Winfrey, Jerry Seinfeld, Ryan Seacrest, so many state and foreign dignitaries. It's just on and on and on and on. So with no further introduction, I would like to introduce Colin Cowie.
Hi, Julie. Afternoon, and thank you so much for inviting me to be part of today's show. Happy to be with you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today. I've had so many wedding pros that wanted us to host an event that was upbeat, fun, and so forth. And you have such great parties. So who better to have a great party with than Colin?
This is true. I think you always want to hire a party planner who knows how to party.
Yes, yes, definitely. So I guess what I would be saying, Colin, what have you been doing during this lockdown?
I'm actually having a wonderful time. You know, the first week was so impossible. Like everyone else, I was wanting to jump out the window. I was crawling around in my own skin, not knowing what was going to happen. And I've actually found solace, and I've found peace in being at home and doing nothing. And I think what's so interesting is there's been stages to this whole thing. In the beginning, it was complete panic. We didn't know what was going on. It was all this misinformation, right? And then it was containment, and we were all sent home, right? And then we asked ourselves why. And I think that's the important question we all need to ask ourselves. Why were we all sent home? You know, I think it's to figure out that there are, 60 minutes in an hour, and to slow down and to not rush the way that we used to rush. And I believe that I'm in day 37 for me now of my quarantine. And I've had almost no interaction with the outside world whatsoever. And it's gotten easier as it's gotten longer. And I think we're starting to take responsibility for what we've done. And I think we're coming along the way. And now we're talking about what does re-entry look like. Earlier, before I joined you, I was polishing silver on my cocktail cabinet with all my favorite liquors and things that help me get a whole lot happier every night at 6 p.m. I've been ironing. For those of you who follow me on Instagram stories, I've been cooking up a storm. I've really, really enjoyed cooking, chopping, slicing, dicing, peeling, pulling out silver. I've repacked every closet in the house. I've cleaned every stainless steel, which is a lot in my house, finish. I've cleaned out my closets. I've thrown out clothes. I've thrown out dishes. I'm having a great time. Using my time kind of wisely. I've been coloring in books. In the beginning, it was difficult to get into a routine. Now I have the alarm go off, I do my meditation, I get dressed, I do webinars, Zoom meetings, figure out what we can do for the next chapter, stay in touch with my team, and literally be as upbeat as positive in a very challenging time.
Yeah. Well, what have you been cooking? What has been your favorite thing?
So last week, someone sent me like 2-3 pounds of Alaskan king crab. So I took it all out of the shell and I sauteed that with lemon rind, white wine, butter, and I made the most fabulous king crab and white wine pasta. It was phenomenal.
Can I come over for dinner?
Anytime. I've been stuffing vegetables with ground beef. I've been cooking interesting pastas. I made lasagna from scratch, literally making the pasta.
Oh, wow.
I've always wanted to cook a tomahawk steak because it looks so intimidating. Oh my God, it's like cooking Brontosaurus Rex. And I cooked a tomahawk steak on Sunday and it was perfect. I was really happy. Using my time as positively as possible. I've exercised every single day. And if I haven't been able to go outside, I've done push-ups or sit-ups or something, following an online program right here in my living room on the floor. But every single day, because I don't want to walk out of here, 7 sizes larger. I want to walk out and turn heads.
I don't want to do that either.
And I have been eating a lot.
Oh
So
my
I take these breaks. So I'll go on these fabulous eating and drinking binges, and then I go clean for like a week, and I don't drink alcohol for a week, get it back again, and start all over.
Wow. So what have you missed the most during this time off, kind of,
The interesting thing is I've traveled 15.5 million miles around the world in search of what I do, right? And this is the longest time I've been in one place. It's the longest time I've not been on an aeroplane or visited another city. And in the beginning, I missed many, many things, and I missed so much. I don't miss that much so much right now because I've gotten used to this routine and I'm kind of enjoying it. And I've made a pledge to speak to every one of my wedding guests in the next 3 weeks. I've been speaking with clients, I've been speaking with vendors and creative partners and making sure that I stay in touch with the outside world. Every Monday at 4, I speak with 25 of my contemporaries to get an idea what's happening in their world. And I think, we're staying in touch with one another and doing all the things that we need to do to inspire one another to get to the other side. It's not easy.
That's good.
Right. Good. So, I mean, with everything that we've been going through, I'm sure there's going to be changes in our industry.
Yes.
What do you think might be some of the changes that we might see going
before I
forward?
answer your question, I want to put it in perspective. A month ago, I thought I had answers, okay? And I was predicting things that were going to happen, and I was trying to get clients not to postpone and trying to get clients to keep dates. A month later, I realized how completely uninformed I was, right? So there is no crystal ball to the future. And I think that week by week, month by month, new information comes in, new statistics come in. So we react based upon what we know right now. We know that our industry came to a grinding halt, right? It was literally one day, it was over, and we were in lockdown. And people say to me, what's the comeback look like? I don't believe there's a comeback, because it never comes back, right? It always morphs into something else. Think about what happened with 911 and with the market crash. Nothing came back as it was. The consumer becomes more savvy. Everything becomes tighter. So I think that this re-entry program is going to be slow and it's going to be arduous to do weddings. I think we should spend locally. We should support our local economies. And I believe it'll start with a wedding of 50 people. There'll be some social distancing, and then they'll give us permission to do 75. And then there'll be a new technology, something that comes out that makes it real easy. But this is a very, very complex situation we find ourselves in. To restart, you can't just say, well, okay, we're going to start the markets again in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time. There's a lot of groundwork that needs to happen. First of all, our offices. How safe are our offices in calling your teams back to the offices? What are we going to do to prove to the teams that it's safe for them to come back to the offices, right? The schedule for staggered travel hours, so they're not traveling in high density, maybe the ability to work from home a few days. Once we've figured out how to get the team involved, right, then we need to figure out what's our communication strategy going to be like with all the people that we speak to. So if we do go to an event, right, and someone asks us about coronavirus, we need to make sure that every single person who's interfacing with the client has a smart answer. The last thing you want is one person giving the wrong answer, sending off alarm bells. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, to get our people back, then define what is the product like, right? And then figure out what are we going to do to present this product to the guest, the consumer, the owner, the host, so that they can have confidence to go ahead with the program. In other words, how are we going to make it safe? But at the same time, how do we take these safety protocols and glamorize them, because we are from the world of chic and fabulous, right? And then, of course, we have to look at what are we coming back, are we coming back to? I think there's three distinct groups of people who we're coming back to. There's those, like myself and probably you, who by that stage will be locked up for day 60 something, who can't wait to get out, right? To a safe environment and start to put our foot in the water and test the water. That's the first group. The second group will be those waiting to see what reaction the first group had. So if the first group thought, oh my God, they did this, I felt completely safe. I felt like I really had a good time. I didn't feel like it was contrived. A group will convince B group to come back. And C group aren't going anywhere. They're going to stay as isolated as they can until everyone's got inoculated, everyone's got antibodies, and they can come out safely and freely. So I think there are all these moving pieces that are going to continue to move as we move towards re-entry. And of course, it's not only what we want, what we have to do within our own businesses, but it's also going to be dictated to us by the state, the government, et cetera, what we can and what we cannot do. So to answer it real bluntly, we're moving forward in uncharted territory and uncharted waters, but we will get there. I think that this reset button or this opportunity that we've been given is going to take us a long time to get out of it. And I think we're going to learn a lot of lessons along the way. And I really believe that out of dark, out of struggle comes light. And I'm sure that we will end up looking back in 18 months' time and think, oh my God, I'm a better person, I'm a better business person, I'm a better friend, I'm a better everything. Because we took time to slow down and really evaluate what counts and what's important in life.
Yeah, I truly believe, Casey and Colin and all of our panelists and guests, I think now is the best time to learn new things and things that you need to do in your business. I know I did that when 2010 happened. Those are the times when you can really make big changes in your business. You really can.
The rest of the time, I always equate it to the surfers, right? When you're out there surfing and you're on your board and you're riding your wave, you're more interested in who's taking pictures and having such a good time that you don't really think of the downtime. But when you fall off the board and you're in that water and you're wading, right, that is where we learn. And that's where we are right now. And so out of our struggle will come smarts and intelligence and opportunity.
Yes. Now, I mean, one of the things, even my nieces, nephews, they're missing their graduations, they're missing prom, people are missing birthday parties and of course, weddings and events. How would you say for those that are still carrying on with some kinds of events for these loved ones, friends, how we could still make them cherished without actually being present?
It's a very difficult one. It's kind of like standing in a room versus looking at the picture of a room, right? When someone shows you a picture of a room, it can tell something. When you stand in the room, you feel it. The senses are engaged and involved, right? So I think we do the best we can with Zoom. We get dressed up. I mean, you wouldn't know right now if I had a t-shirt or a speedo or a bathing suit underneath this. Everything these days is some waist up.
No.
And I'm not going to show you. Actually, I have jeans on. But it's true. I mean, I have like rolled out of bed and put on a suit and tie and everything's because everything is from the waist up. So I think we show up in Zoom and we get dressed and we light candles and we make cocktails and we talk. We have a group of people, but if it hasn't been Zoom, it's been house party. And like we've been, some of my British friends, my South African friends. And in a way, it's actually more social now because it's very one-on-one. But I think nothing will ever equate to being in the same room, smelling, touching, tasting, seeing, hearing, all the same senses at the same time. So I think through technology and things like House Party and Zoom, it gives us the ability to at least interact with one another. We can drink. By the second drink, by the time you've had the fourth drink in Zoom, it's I'll take this conversation offline, please.
Yeah. Well, I know, you got married in February. So why don't you we'd love to
2
share some of your pictures and
Two
tell us
months
about
ago
the wedding.
yesterday. 2 months ago yesterday. It seems like 10 years ago. It seems like a lifetime ago. And I was on my way to my honeymoon exactly 2 months ago today. And I thought, oh my God, I'm coming back to such a busy second and third quarter. I have a new TV show in development. I'm writing a new book. I'm doing all these amazing things. And who would have known we'd be where we are right now? So let me tell you about some of these pictures. You went back to that picture. So that was my fiance, now my husband, Danny. This is at a place called Boschendal in South Africa. It's a wine estate. We had a 10-day wedding, and this was like the day number 9. And this is just that magical moment with the most incredible mountains in the background. Afterwards, I've never been happier in my life before.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll show some more pictures. I think I'll try to put some more in here so that we can see more. Yeah, that's beautiful.
That was the
love
dining.
it.
It was beautiful. And you know,
Helps when you have a good designer.
Yes, I had a really good designer. You know, being 2 men, I wanted it to be masculine and I wanted it to be elegant and romantic and beautiful. I didn't want walls or flowers. So I think, you know, this was exactly us and who we are. There was no dance floor in the dinner. We had a beautiful classical piano perform right at the beginning of dinner. Danny's one of his best friends, Marcelo Riogeri, is the #1 concert pianist in Europe. So she performed for us, and we had some amazing speeches and toast. And at the end of the dinner, I made my toast, which I spent 9 months rehearsing.
Oh.
And after that, I had the 4 tenors perform, which were incredible. And that was about 10:45, and then we went outside to a nightclub area that we'd created. We danced until midnight, and then at midnight we went to another nightclub and we danced till 6:30 in the morning, and the last guest left at 7:15.
Oh,
wow.
I mean, I figured I waited such a long time, I might as well do the full 9 yards, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, beautiful.
there's another picture from the reception.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Glowing inside and out. Yeah.
Oh.
And we did, it was wonderful because we got to rewrite our own narrative. And because, you know, it was my first wedding, it took me a long time to do this. I figured, let's do South Africa, probably the last destination wedding in a long time, and let's make it 10 days. So we went on one safari first, and then 120 people joined us for a second safari. And on the second night, you had to come to Glamourflage dressed as your favorite exotic animal, which was hysterical.
Oh,
And
fun.
then we flew all of our guests to Cape Town. We had
Oh, wow.
wonderful reception in Cape Town and the welcome reception cocktail party. And then we did a phenomenal Mykonos-style beach party at the Grand, which started at noon and finished at 9:30 p.m. I stumbled home. Then we all went out to Boschendal, this fabulous vineyard in Stellenbosch, and did a rehearsal family dinner, and then this epic wedding that went from 6 to 6.
Oh, wow. That was amazing.
You-
And there were fun things like, I didn't want to do the stereotypical wedding. We didn't have a straight aisle. We had a serpentine aisle. We didn't exchange rings. We exchanged bracelets that were screwed on forever. We didn't have bridesmaids and groomsmen. We went with our families. We walked down at the same time. I love this. This is a group shot of all of the guests, 176 people in their most fabulous gowns. All the orange and pink gowns were the bridesmaids, our sisters, and they were designed by Naeem Khan, the fashion designer.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Stunning.
It was a
Yeah,
good one.
Wow. It's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think here's a picture I have of the cake.
Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Wow.
Wow. Check that out.
You know,
Yeah,
50
that's
shades,
beautiful.
my 50 shades of gray.
Yeah. Yes.
Are there swatches?
Yeah. Wow, that was amazing.
Now, from
So-
beginning to end, it was very unique. It was our narrative. We wanted to find different ways to do things that weren't stereotypical and do it chic, fabulous, and a whole lot of fun.
Fun.
My liver's just recovered.
Yeah. through the years, with all the weddings that you've done or other events, I mean, what has been the most unusual request that you've had a client ask you to do?
Oh my God, the sky's the limit. But when they're too unusual, I'm usually busy that day.
I think we've all used
One
that
rapper,
excuse
one
at
rapper
some
wanted me
point.
to do a seafood station with a life-size sculpture of themselves in ice. I said, I'm busy that day. So how about next week? I said, I'm busy that week too. Yeah. Although in this climate, I'd make ice sculptures of you, your dog, and your house.
Well, do you have dogs? Do you have animals?
No.
No, you don't.
I had a dog for 17 years in New York, and it's not easy. I miss him tremendously, but at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's snowing outside and doggy's got to go, you got to get dressed, put boots, gloves, scarf, go down, then come up and wipe the salt off the feet, put Vaseline, and oh my God, it's a nightmare. And dogs never go. At least a child, you can teach a child to potty train itself. By year 3, they're on their own. Dogs like this, you're cleaning up after the dog for the rest of your life from day 1 to the last breath.
Wow. Now,
That's exactly right.
I mean, besides being a great cook that you mentioned, is there other talents that most people don't even realize you have?
I play the piano. I love to make cocktails. I love to travel. And anything unusual. I've lived a pretty open book. I love order. I love cleaning. I love exercise. I love being fabulous. I like being positive.
I love that.
All the things will sort of what I miss the most. And after all the cleaning, chopping, slicing, dicing, piling, making ice, the freezer, the stainless steel, etc., polishing, silver, ironing, I really need a manicure desperately.
Yes, I know.
And I cut my hair myself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it is hard during this time. Sometimes there's some things you miss that you can't do, and that is, I agree with you about the nails.
And, I try not to think about those things. I have friends and driving me crazy. My children are driving me crazy. I got to get out. I got to travel. I got to do things. And I think you actually set yourself up for turmoil when you do things like that. We're here, make the best of it. Make pretty, make nice.
Well, Colin and I are going to play a game, and everybody else can join into the game. It's called the burning question. Yeah. So basically, I ask a question, Colin and everybody else, and you can type it in, but it has to be one answer, and you have to do it very quickly. 5 seconds.
So what do I type?
Okay.
Julie, where do I type?
Do what now?
Where do I type?
You don't. Colin doesn't have to type. Everybody else has to type. Good because I actually have my laptop sitting on a box of pasta to make sure that the height's good.
Mine's sitting on a photo frame box.
Otherwise, it would have been like this.
You were showing. That's funny. Okay, here's my first burning question. I'll be ready to put it in the text. Write in your answers. How often do you change your decor at home?
Regularly.
Okay.
I'm always moving things around.
Okay.
Change our decor.
All right. Okay.
But you might move a table, you might move some object, you might move a painting or two. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to go move a desk.
Okay. Okay. The next burning question. Okay. What event are you dying to do?
Get out of here.
Okay.
I think we all need a big coming out party.
Yes. All right, next burning question. In high school, what would you have been voted most likely for?
Oh my God, I wasn't a great student. I was very naughty. I was rebellious. I was always in trouble. I mean, I come from a small town in South Africa. Who would have ever thought I would have landed up here?
All right. Next question. What is your favorite drink?
Vodka,
Okay.
as it is, with a slice of orange. Doesn't have to be with anything. I like a good glass. I like a big piece of ice, a thick slice of orange, and a good vodka. And I'm happy. By the third one, I'm really happy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, okay, Casey.
Oh, Casey brought his stuff in. Okay.
And Darlene's
What-
trying to let us think it's coffee. I'd love to know what's in Darlene's coffee.
Oh, he's got it there. Okay. There, Casey, you better say something so they could switch the
Scotch.
camera to it. Okay, Scotch.
Oh,
Okay,
there you
okay,
go.
Okay.
And it's a good one.
I've
All
all my
right.
single malts. It's,
Okay. What is the first thing you're going to do when this lockdown is over?
Manicure and cut my hair. And I'll probably be
Dresser.
standing around, I'll probably be about 3.5 million people standing in front of me.
Well, you know what? There's some secret in my life. I have my personal phone number to my hairdresser. And I was joking with her the other day. I'm like, I am your first appointment, right? I sent her a text message.
I think that every single person probably just answered exactly the same.
Yes. I was joking with her, but we were having a lot of fun in the conversation. She goes, I'm ready to roll. I don't want to be at home any longer. So, well, we're done with our game. Now I'm going to open it up for questions from our audience. I'm going to be looking at our chat area here for questions that you have for Colin. Go ahead and type your questions now, Casey or Darlene, if you have, or Ashley, if you have some questions, you can verbally ask Colin your questions as well. But I will be waiting for those questions through the chat.
who was the photographer at your wedding, Colin?
A gentleman by the name of Jean-Pierre Ace, who's actually originally a fashion photographer who spent his time between South Africa and New York. The funny thing is I met him in New York.
Oh, wow.
New York is the smallest town in the world.
It really is, really is. He was a pleasure to work with.
Wow. Yeah, well, one of the questions that just came in is, have you ever fired a client in the middle of the planning?
Yes, many times. Many times. Although not as much as I used to. You know, I have a very hard rule. If you make someone on my team cry, you're done. There's no coming back from it.
Mhm.
Never, because I have such respect for the people that work for me. And for someone to disrespect them and to treat them badly is a big no-no in my book.
Nice.
And I will go to the client and say, here's your money, here's your file. I think we're going to fail you. I don't think this is going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. And it does so much for the culture of the team. Because, you know, without the team, I'm just an idea. Right? The team does all the hard work and the execution. So I think you always have to look out for your people. And you know what? We're too fabulous and we're too nice to have to put up with someone else's shit. And we work too hard, you know, for someone to come and second guess everything. And I can get this for less of you. And I know someone, and I said, darling, don't waste my time. So I think it's important to be able to know when to say no and when to leave the room.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, I definitely think there's times when that comes in order, you know, to have that, you know, there's just sometimes it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So Darlene or Ashley, do you have some question for Colin that you?
There's so
Don't be
many.
shy.
What
Now
was your-
Ashley's a floral designer.
I'm a floral designer. Retired. I have 3 kids now, though.
But the most amazing thing, Ashley, is like, it's so sad. You see, I saw an image last week of something like 140 million tulips that were being trashed because there was no place to ship them to.
I was going God.
But how sad is it? I have one orchid plant left in my house, as you can see over there. It was in my office. Other than that, I don't have anything fresh. There's no fresh flowers anywhere.
No, I went to a flower shop today to pick up balloons for my daughter's birthday today. Yeah. And so he made me a balloon bouquet, and I looked in his cooler. I was like, oh, it was so pitiful looking.
And all these things are going to make us respect them even more when we come back.
Yeah.
Flowers. Look how flowers have been used, but they've been covering walls and buildings and floors, and such a use of them that poor little flowers, no love, no respect. It's one of a million things part of an installation. I think we'll start to have a better appreciation for our ingredients moving forward.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is when the Spanish flu happened in 1918, I come from the community of Springfield, Ohio, that used to be the world #1 producer of roses. And we are not the #1 producer of roses. Nobody even knows that.
It's now Ecuador and South America.
Yeah, it just shows you how much changes, over time. Things like that can happen tremendously. Well, I was going to go ahead and talk with our wedding market friends, but before I do that, Colin, did you have any closing thoughts of things that you wanted to share or talk about?
Yes. First of all, Julie, thank you for bringing me on board. I've had such a lovely time with you, Darlene, Casey, Julie, and Ashley this afternoon. It's been fun. And to everybody out there, we're all in this together. I think we need to rely upon one another. Let's stick together. Let's keep it local. Let's spend American. And I look forward to other days in the future. And, let's enjoy this time and use it as constructively as we possibly can, and to inspire one another to get by the days, learn, clean your closets, use your good things, celebrate your life.
Yes.
Sleep on your best sheets. Don't hold anything back for safe or anything. Use your stuff and have a good time. And please be safe and look after yourselves.
Yeah.
Well, now that I just, you mentioned that, now all these questions kept rolling in now. Okay. All right. So one person just said, speaking of flowers, what is your ideal way of getting rid of them at the end of the night?
Usually to take some home, of course. But where we can, where it's possible, the interesting thing, and Ashley will tell you this, if you're working with peonies, you want them in their pristine moment, which means they're going to die in the next 24 hours. You want a rose when you get in your house, when it's this size, will open to this size of a period of 5 days. When we buy the flower, we want it to be like this, or we'll buy it 5 days before. So there's not always a lot that we can do with flowers afterwards. Sometimes we can, we'll send them to a hospice or to a nursing home where we can. But our events business, unfortunately, is very wasteful.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, the next question that came in is, what are your recommendations on spring brides that had to postpone weddings till fall? Should they change their color schemes or keep with spring colors?
So the interesting thing, and I was asked this question once before, can we keep our colors from spring to the fall wedding? The pinks and the reds and the oranges and the yellows are all very similar in shade. The one color that really does change with the seasons is green. Like in the springtime, we're looking at a brighter green. It's a lime green. It's a chartreuse green. In the summer, it becomes celery or avocado. And then winter brings us hunter green. So I think you can stick to your color scheme, but you can change the tones of the colors that you're actually using. They do become more seasonal. You can go from a spring color to an autumnal color of pink and green.
Okay, great. Well, the next question is, what best advice can you give a new wedding planner that's about to graduate right now?
Oh,
that's a good question.
It's a really good question.
Wow, they're really going to get it at the time.
If you look at our industry, I spoke about, I did a webinar yesterday, and I said, people say, what is the best advice? I said, the best advice is cut your expenses as much as you possibly can. Get hold of every government program, work with furlough, work with whatever you can to extend your runway as long as you can. Your runway is your ability to keep your business alive, right? I think that's the most important thing for us to do. We know that 30 to 40% of the restaurants are not going to open. We know that maybe 50% of the world's airlines will not come back, right? We know that a lot of wedding planners and a lot of vendors in our industry are not going to come back. So I guess anyone who's starting a new business now, when this all comes out, I guess you have the benefit of starting with a blank slate.
Yeah.
But we're starting at the bottom of the barrel. And it's going to be interesting to see how we build and how we come back again. It's a long journey ahead of us. We were running at 120 miles an hour in the fast lane, fueled with big doses of style, passion, glamour, and travel. I think it's going to be, 0 to 50, 50 to 75, 75 to 90. It's going to take a lot of time. And I would imagine the one thing that I do know for sure is that whenever we come back, right, we come back differently. And people that buy our services are our consumers. The consumer is reading every report right now. The consumer knows that we've lost all of our work for 2020. That consumer is going to have the pencil very sharp in 2021, is maybe going to ask, I want 3 estimates. I know you don't have any work right now. I know you need work. This is what I'm willing to pay. And on top of that, we're going to start now to dealing with Gen Z. We'll probably end up figuring out, I want 3 people to estimate on my job. So I don't think that re-entry is going to be easy. I think our consumers are going to be smarter than ever before. Don't ever forget for 1 second that that's going to happen. And I don't know that I would be that excited about starting a wedding business in an already crowded space in a very challenged time. But you know what? If you're starting out, be positive, do what you got to do, and hopefully it'll work for you.
I really feel, Colin, that because of what you just said with some of the businesses that are not going to be really financially healthy, I definitely think for wedding planners that wedding insurance is going to be an important component that I think that they need to give their clients moving forward in these difficult times.
Julie, I think it's going to be that on a lot of levels. Even if you just look at it legally, what if an employee comes to work and they're contracted? Are we vulnerable and liable? What happens if a client says, oh, well, I got it at your event? Are we liable? There's going to be a big gray area of a lot of left and right, back and forth, until such time as we get to a space where both sides are comfortable. Because we're going to want to be protected and the client's going to be protected. And it's uncharted territory in the middle, all to be determined.
Yeah. All right. The next question was, what was your favorite event to plan?
My favorite event to plan was my wedding 2 months ago.
Yay! I would say that
was an amazing client. I made decisions. I was like
the best clients.
I spent double what I wanted to spend.
And somebody said, how can we get Colin's public speaking schedule? I do know that Colin is on Wedding Market News if you would like to book him as a speaker, but I don't know about your schedule. Do you have a website where they can see where you'll be speaking in the future?
I usually promote all speaking engagements through the website and through stories, mainly through stories on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
On Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to do a lot of, it's interesting, so much of the speaking engagements, I would fly here, fly there, fly, at least once a month I would do this. And I did one yesterday via Zoom. It was so much fun. I think that's why I think a lot of our business travel is going to fall by the wayside because we're going to rely more like technology like we're having right now.
Right. Yeah, I think that will be a lot of conventions, I think, will also change. Maybe not as many.
We've learned already that not everybody has to jump on a plane and fly somewhere for a convention. And I think companies will be protecting their money and looking to reduce their expenses as they move forward. And would have realized that technology like we're using right now this minute can get 4 people in a room, with 5 people in a room at the same time, with 100 people participating or 300 people participating.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Absolutely.
One of the questions somebody else asked to see, when do you think the wedding business will return to the islands like the Bahamas, where I'm from?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Yeah,
There's
that is a
nothing
good
wrong
question.
I would love to go to the Bahamas. I'd love to go to Mauritius. I'd love to go to the Seychelles and Maldives. I think the missing point there, it's not the island, okay? It's the airline industry has to prove to us that they have made enough safety measures to make us feel safe to fly confidently. Until that happens, no one's going anywhere. And until that happens, and with 50% of the airlines coming back, figure, just to put it in perspective, with all the social distancing, Eric Ripert is probably one of the most famous chefs in America. It's a 3-star Michelin restaurant called La Bernardin here in New York City. I read in the New York Times yesterday, he spoke about the fact that the new governance, where he usually seats 50 people a night in his restaurant, new governance will allow him to seat 50 people a night in his restaurant. How is he going to maintain his business, making a third of the profit that he used to make? It's the same thing with the airlines. The airlines, if they're going to have to take out every second seat, right? That means they're going to run at half the capacity of what they could be making. So again, I think, it's uncharted territory. We don't know what's going to happen in that industry. God knows they've been given huge bailouts and the government's going to stay involved until such time as it does work, but we have to have national carriers because we've got to move. So, I would love to go to the Bahamas right now, in fact, but no one who's on this call right now, I doubt, would feel happy or free or confident or comfortable to drive in a car to an airport, navigate your way through an airport, and then fly to another destination and do it on the way.
Absolutely.
So this kind of lies in the travel industry. It's up to them to prove to us that it's safe to fly again.
Yeah. All right, next question. How do you suggest we handle the remainder of 2020 if all of the events that were scheduled have now been moved to 2021? That's a good question.
It's a real question. I don't have an answer because it's a sad one. Because we are all hardworking people and we are all in this together. And I know that when I'm not working, the cake baker's not working, the florist is not working, the light person is not working, none of us are working. It's a very, very sad situation. And in 35 years of business, I have never found myself in this situation before. When there was a financial crash, we waited for markets to come back together, but there were always things going on. We have been put on complete, absolute, categoric stop mode. So, what do? I think you find ways to diversify. Are there ways to use your skill set outside of the wedding industry? Can you hopefully participate and work in other environments? We have to be creative because there is no more work this year, And a lot of people aren't wanting to fork over big deposits because they don't even know if you're going to be there next year. So there's this uncertainty we're seeing from both sides. You can't start working on the project right now if it's in April next year because so much is going to change between now and then. So, the event business is the same as the travel business.
Right.
And I think we have to grin and bear it and figure out how do we get to next year and how do we make it work? And it's going to be a very sad ending for a lot of people.
Yeah. Somebody asked a very interesting question. Do you have any contract clauses that you would like to share or tips on that during this time? I mean, I know, we're not lawyers, but I'm sure that your team has probably made some suggestions, I'm sure.
It's, I've been asked this question by so many people, and I don't have a magical answer for anyone. I mean, the first one that everyone has asked, what about my deposit? I want my deposit back. Okay. So you need to look not at the red line and not at the small print, not at what the contract says, but I think you need to be guided by the relationship, right? When you've been working with the family for the last 15 years and they want the deposit back, right? You either give the deposit back, or what I have done, I've said, by keeping your deposit will help me keep my business afloat, so that at the end of the year, when your event comes, we're there to serve you. So I think in certain situations, this is all based now, not on the legalese, right? But this is also now based all on relationships. Right. We're doing business right now in London, which I'm moving a big, massive event from London to New York. Legally, they don't have to give me my deposit back, but out of respect to me and the fact that there's an opportunity that I'll go back and work there again, I've been able to get 25% of the deposit back from my client, which makes me look good. It makes them kind of happy, and we're doing what we can. In other areas, I've been able to get the full deposit back, but I think that this is something that you have to look at on a case-by-case basis. If someone is demanding a deposit back from you, and the wedding was around the corner, you've probably done 80% of the work. They don't deserve the deposit back. But if someone just gave you a fat deposit for a wedding in February next year, you don't deserve to keep the deposit either, right? Mm-hmm. So you could say, listen, of that deposit, I need to keep 20%. I need to keep 25%. You got to help me out, Jay. So when we work with me in 9 months' time, don't you? And I think what we don't know, the big gray area is going to be liability of, did you expose me to coronavirus? On both sides of the fence. Both consumer, your guest, to your owner, and on the other side is from the employees and from your vendors and creative partners. And I think it's going to take a while for the water to find its level there. We're going to go backwards and forwards until such time as we find a middle ground that's acceptable to both and provides protection to both parties. So to answer the question, I think look at the relationship before you look at the fine print.
I agree with you. I think that is important. Well, thank you, Colin. I'm going to now move to our Wedding Market friends that have joined us. Thank you so much for coming on today.
It's such a lovely time with you today. And I wish you all great luck moving forward. Stay safe, be healthy, and we'll see you on the other side, if not before.
Take care, Colin.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Bye, Colin. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Now, Darlene, you shared with me the other day some interesting things that you have been working on while we've been on this lockdown. What have you been doing during this time?
Well, actually, I've been helping families figure out how to work at home now that their kids are home and their spouses are home.
Yeah,
I need an overnight coach for how to work at home.
Well, my sister Ashley, she's, it's been different. She usually takes her kids to school, and I know she's mentioned, how different it is.
Yeah, it's like who are these people? If you're used to you're used to spending all your time, alone, or, you have all that time to yourself, and you're not used to, now you've got your kids and maybe your partner is home, your spouse is home, and, and you're like, who are these people? What do I do now? And you're fighting for space, you're fighting for time, you're fighting for a shower and bathroom time, and, what do I do? So, and for me, it's normal. I've homeschooled for, how old is for 14 years. So it's just, I wasn't thrown into it though, but, I got to gradually get into it. But to me, this is just normal stuff. And, so I'm like, this is normal. So.
Yeah. And you're a wedding planner. So, what tips do you have for those moms at home that are trying to also school their children at home?
Well, I can say that the biggest thing for me, I had to learn by example, like trial and error. But the thing that's worked out for us is rather than making a schedule, like, 6 o'clock you do this and this you do this, it was just blocking out time. So like our morning block, and then we have a school block and a work block and this kind of thing. So, morning block was everybody getting ready and we're having breakfast and that kind of thing. That happened during this chunk of time. And so it was we just chunked out what we were going to do. We worked in chunks rather than a set schedule, because you know, life happens and things never go according to plan, you know, so my schedule, if I had it worked out by hour, it always got messed up. Somebody was sick or something would happen. So I just had a block. I would just, you know, and I could move the blocks around if I needed to, but this was our block, and we would have a fun block and a chore block and that kind of thing. You know, so, and then I would always have a set time where, you know, I would return phone calls, or this was my work block, and that could fit either in the afternoon or in the evening. So when the kids were younger, you know, when my husband was home, I could move that and do it in the evening if I needed to, if I couldn't do it in the afternoon. But anyway, that was a, you know, that worked
So
out.
how do you,
Huh?
well, I was going to say, how have you been doing the boundaries? Because I know boundaries during this time is very important.
Oh yeah, that's a good segue, because that was the next thing I had, because we had to figure out spaces. So now it's like boundaries are different for us too, because now my husband is home, and so we're all figuring out our space. So like, you know, you have to claim your space. So if you're it depends, you know, if you have a home office, that's great. But if like mom and dad are home, or however that's all working out for you, you've got, you know, who's going to work where and when. And so it's just something you have to everyone has to talk it out, communicate who's going to work where. If like, we're going to, again, if the block thing, if we have to use your kitchen for school, you know, then we're going to do breakfast and do all our stuff here, but then this is going to be the time for school. I mean, this is a great thing for a planner, right? Because I can plan, this is the time we're using the table for this, and then this is the time we're going to do it for lunch. But you know, there's the family room. You can do school anywhere, and I'm portable, so I can move my laptop somewhere else and work over there, you know, so I'm fairly flexible with that. So, but giving yourself permission to be flexible, that's the neat thing about school at home, because you're flexible to move anywhere, and the time is flexible. You don't have to recreate the public school at home because you're at home. So if you try to recreate the whole day from the public school at home, it's not going to be realistic, because it's at home. It's going to be different.
Right, definitely.
To be different, yeah. So
yeah, well, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for, yeah. Now Casey here, he's been really busy. Now Casey, no, he has. I mean, I'm shocked at all the different things you were doing. What have you been doing?
Let's just couch that with the fact that, you know, I'm putting my anxiety to good use. So being productive, and much like Colin was saying earlier, I've been cooking a lot. I've been exercising a lot, up to 30 push-ups in a row, like every day. Also, I learned to cut my wife's hair, because we're in seclusion. So I scheduled a tutorial with a wedding hairdresser that I know. We sent her some money. She taught me how to cut my wife's hair. My wife has not killed me, so that means I must have done a pretty good job. Apart from that, I've also been, you know, like looking to help people. Like I worked from home, you know, as a photographer for 20 years. So I've, you know, helped some people and I've created some videos for people to, you know, help them look better on Zoom calls, adjust to working from home, how to avoid burning out, how to take a better picture of themselves for their Outlook profile, which might come up. I've also transitioned a lot of my time, since I'm not shooting weddings or anything like that. I had created a website called Nerdy Photographer a couple of years ago, and I was, you know, regularly putting things into it as a podcast. But now that I was sitting around with not the main group of what I normally do, I put a lot more time into it. I've created a 12-minute long animated version of one of my podcast episodes, which, you know, when was I going to have time to do something like that? I also created both for photographers and the way to keep things busy, but also for parents, something to do with their children, as I created a list of 13 photo challenges. Sorry, but somebody who's going to be on this is like acting up a little bit. Something to do with your kids was these photo challenges and projects that you could do from home. And 90% of them you can do with your phone. You don't need an actual professional camera. I think Julie has a link to that. She might share it for everybody else who's watching.
Yeah, I was getting that ready, and now it's it's not pasting for me.
It's fine.
Oh no.
But it's if you go to
website.
if you go to nerdyphotographer.com, you'll find the link to it. There's a whole bunch of articles and the link to the photo projects you can do from home. There's lots of stuff, and my wife has taken interest in it. A lot of people are sharing using the hashtag Nerdy Photo Challenge. To people to share their photos on Instagram. I've been connecting with a lot of people around Instagram, and seeing the photos that they've put up, which is a great way for people to connect and kind of form some community during this. And one of the photos that was taken, I think, Julie, do you have this picture, is of my dog that my wife took. Let's see if she
Yeah, there it is.
pull it up. Beautiful picture of my dog. And that leads us into the next segment of our program. Sit. Can you sit? I don't know if you can see her.
No.
There she is.
Oh, yeah.
And
Now, you've
I've been
been
spending a lot of
teaching
time
her
training
tricks.
my dog. High five. Good girl. Lay down. See, hold on. Oops, sorry. We're gonna stay there. Wait. Wait. Now she'll wait there and won't touch those treats until I give her the okay, because we've been working on this pretty regularly. See, she's staring at me like, yeah, I can do this. She's extremely patient. Okay.
Oh, yay! Good job!
One of those things that after
Yay!
they said never work with children or animals, and that's one of the reasons you never know what you're going to get. But I've been spending a lot of time working with her. It helps keep me mentally busy.
Yeah.
And she's super smart, so the problem is outsmarting her. But that's one of the things that we've been doing to pass the time, is to now use
You
our
have
super
an
smart phone.
Instagram. You have an
What's
Instagram for the
Yes,
for your
she
dog.
has her own Instagram account. Because she's a little dog model. It's at Shadow Gozer. It's a Ghostbusters reference for the Gozer part, because it could be anything it wants to be. She's in charge. She's the little destroyer of worlds, but she's also pretty sweet. Oh, come up here. Oh, yes.
Oh.
Ah, so cute.
Yeah, she's a good girl. She just needs structure, much
Oh,
like most
Lord.
of us. Much like most of us, and we
You're
need
just
some
like a little
structure.
kid.
There you go.
Well, guys, this has been fun. I know I've been away, and probably some people wondered what happened to me. But it was nice to come back and host the event, and who
This is
knows,
fun.
maybe we'll do some more in the future. I'm sure.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot of fun. So
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to be a part of it. Thanks for having me on, Julia. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on with us, and we will do a replay of this broadcast on Facebook and some of our
Yay.
other Wedding Market social media channels. So, and we still have weddingmarketnews.com for other wedding industry news and information. So keep us on your list of websites to visit, and well, I'm sure we'll see you out on the social media channels.
Everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye everyone. You say bye, Chanel? No?
Bye.
Bye.